You're turning 65 and Medicare finally kicks in. You feel a small wave of relief, at least the insurance piece is handled. Then you pull up the options and realize you have to choose between Medicare Advantage and Medigap. Nobody explained that whichever one you pick could follow you for the rest of your life in a way that's very hard to undo. Most people assume they can just switch later if it doesn't work out. The data tells a different story. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, fewer than 1 in 10 Medicare Advantage enrollees successfully switch to a Medigap plan after their initial enrollment window closes. Not because they don't want to, but because insurers in most states can legally turn them down based on health. This isn't like picking a cell phone carrier. So before you let a TV commercial or a smooth-talking insurance agent make this call for you, let's actually understand what you're choosing between. Now I want to be clear about what I mean when I say this decision locks you in. It's not that you're signing a contract. You can technically change your Medicare coverage every year during open enrollment. The problem is more subtle than that, and it trips up a lot of people, which is why I want to spend a few minutes here before we get into the cost numbers. Medicare Advantage, also called Part C, is how private insurance companies bundle your Medicare benefits. Instead of original Medicare paying your doctors and hospitals directly, you join a private plan, usually an HMO or a PPO, and that plan manages everything. The government pays the insurer a fixed amount per month to cover you. In exchange, the insurer often charges you a low or even zero monthly premium on top of your Part B premium. That's why the commercials are so appealing. $0 a month sounds like a deal. But here's what that low premium actually means in practice. When you use the plan, when you go to the hospital, see a specialist, need physical therapy after a knee replacement, you pay copays and coinsurance, and you're subject to the plan's network. According to CMS data from 2025, the average Medicare Advantage out-of-pocket maximum is around $5,000 for in-network care. Many plans go higher for combined in- and out-of-network exposure, sometimes to $9,000 or more. That cap sounds protective until you realize that a serious illness can push you to that ceiling in a single year, and then again the next year and the year after that. The network piece is the other thing I don't think people fully appreciate until they're inside one of these plans. Your primary care doctor might be in network. Your cardiologist might not be. The hospital your surgeon operates out of might be out of network for your specific plan. I've sat across from people who didn't find this out until they were already scheduled for surgery. That's a genuinely awful moment. Your health decisions start getting filtered through a coverage question, and that's a different way of being sick than most of us have experienced before age 65. Medigap, the other path, works alongside original Medicare rather than replacing it. You keep Medicare Parts A and B, and Medigap pays for some or most of what Medicare doesn't cover, the deductibles, the coinsurance, the copays. You pay a monthly premium for the Medigap policy on top of your Part B premium. No network restrictions. Any doctor or hospital in the country that accepts Medicare accepts you. That's the real value proposition. It's why I think Medigap is the stronger default for most people, not because it's always cheaper, but because it's predictable. There are several standardized Medigap plan letters, but in 2025 the two that most people are actually choosing between are Plan G and Plan N. Plan G covers nearly everything except the Part B deductible, which is $257 in 2025. You pay that once a year, and after that Medigap handles the rest. Plan N is a step down from G. It has some copays and doesn't cover Part B excess charges, but the monthly premium is lower. My take is that Plan G is the right call for most people who can afford it, because you're not gambling on whether you'll use your coverage. With a serious chronic condition in the mix, you'll use it a lot. The average Medigap Plan G premium for a 65-year-old in 2025 is somewhere around $120 to $180 a month, depending on your state, your gender, and the insurer. That's on top of the standard Part B premium of $185 a month in 2025. So you're looking at roughly $300 to $370 a month total before any drug coverage. That's real money, especially if you're working with a modest retirement income. I understand why a zero premium Advantage plan looks attractive by comparison. I really do. But let me walk through an actual numbers comparison so this isn't abstract. Take a 65-year-old woman, let's call her Carol, who's in otherwise decent health but has type 2 diabetes and mild hypertension, a very common profile. She's choosing between a zero-premium Medicare Advantage HMO plan with a $5,000 in network out-of-pocket maximum and a Medigap Plan G policy at $150 a month. In a healthy year, just a few doctor visits, routine labs, her regular prescriptions, Carol might spend $800 out of pocket under the Advantage plan in copays and small costs. Under Medigap, she's paying $1,800 a year in premiums, $150 times 12, and just $257 for the Part B deductible, so about $2,057. Advantage wins that year by over $1,000. Now imagine Carol has a bad year, a hospitalization for a diabetic complication, a follow-up procedure, 2 months of home health visits. Under the Advantage plan, she could hit her out-of-pocket maximum. That's $5,000 out of pocket plus her Part D drug costs. Under Plan G, her out-of-pocket exposure is essentially that $257 deductible. Medigap covers the rest. She spends about $2,057 total. In a bad year, Medigap saves her nearly $3,000 over Advantage, and that gap grows the more care she needs. Run this out over 10 years with a mix of good and bad years, and the predictability of Medigap tends to win. Not always dramatically, but consistently enough that I'd rather pay the premium and sleep at night than hope I stay in the cheap copay zone. The real risk isn't the premium cost, it's that you budget around your Advantage plan's premiums and then get blindsided by a $4,800 out-of-pocket bill in a year when your income can least absorb it. Now here's the edge case that trips people up, and I want to spend some time here because it's where the lock-in becomes very real. When you first turn 65 and enroll in Medicare Part B, you have a 6-month Medigap open enrollment window. During that window, insurers cannot deny you a Medigap policy or charge you more based on your health. Doesn't matter if you have diabetes, heart disease, a prior cancer diagnosis, they have to take you at the standard rate. That window is guaranteed by federal law. Once it closes, it's gone. What happens if you choose Medicare Advantage first and then decide a few years later you want to switch to Medigap? In most states, you go through medical underwriting. The insurer reviews your health history and they can deny you outright or charge you a significantly higher premium. If you've developed any of the conditions that commonly show up in your 60s, atrial fibrillation, COPD, kidney disease, a cancer history, you may find that no Medigap insurer will take you at any price. In some states, you're stuck in Advantage regardless of what the plan does to its network or its costs year over year. There are a handful of states, currently Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, New York, and a few others, that have their own guaranteed issue protections that go beyond federal law and allow year-round switching without underwriting. If you live in one of those states, the lock-in risk is lower. But if you don't, and that's most of you, this is the reason the decision at 65 is so consequential. You're not just picking insurance for this year. You're potentially picking it for your 70s, when your health is more uncertain, and the stakes of a network restriction or a high out-of-pocket maximum are much higher. There's also a window people miss on the back end. If you joined Medicare Advantage when you first got Medicare, you have a one-time right within your first 12 months to switch back to original Medicare and buy any Medigap policy, also without underwriting. That's called the Medicare Advantage trial right. It's a federal protection most people have never heard of. If you're inside that first year right now and you're not happy with your Advantage plan, that window is worth knowing about. I want to address one scenario where Advantage genuinely makes sense, because I don't want to be unfair to it. If you're in good health, you live in an area with strong Advantage plan options and broad networks, your income is tight enough that the premium difference materially affects your monthly budget, and you're the kind of person who will actually watch the plan's network and out-of-pocket changes every year at open enrollment, Advantage can work. Some plans also offer dental, vision, and hearing benefits that original Medicare doesn't cover, which has real value. The problem isn't that Advantage is a bad product. The problem is that it gets sold to people who don't understand the trade-offs, people who don't realize that the network can shrink, the copays can rise, and the out-of-pocket maximum can change every single January 1st. You have to be an active, attentive consumer to get good value from Advantage over a long timeline. A lot of people aren't, and the insurers count on that. One more thing I think most advisors get backwards. They frame this as a cost comparison today, as if you're pricing insurance for a 65-year-old. But you're really making a bet about care utilization in your 70s and 80s. The average Medicare beneficiary's healthcare spending increases substantially as they age. According to the Employee Benefit Research Institute, out-of-pocket healthcare costs for a 75-year-old are roughly double what they were at 65. So the plan that looks expensive at 65 Medigap tends to look increasingly smart at 75 when you're more likely to be using it heavily. Plan for the version of yourself who is older and less healthy, not the version sitting in the chair today. I work with people 50 and over who are planning their retirement, and I've seen this mistake made more than almost any other. Someone picks the low-premium plan at 65 because money is tight, develops a serious condition at 68, and then finds themselves unable to switch. They're managing a chronic illness inside a network they didn't choose with out-of-pocket costs they didn't budget for. That's a hard situation, and it was preventable. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. This is general education, not personalized advice. Consult a fiduciary before acting. If this helped clarify something you've been wrestling with, hit subscribe. I put out new videos regularly for people who are building a retirement plan later than they'd like and need real answers, not generic advice. If there's a Medicare question, a Social Security timing question, or something about retirement income you'd like me to dig into, drop it in the comments. I read them and I work the good ones into upcoming videos. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.